Today in our 2007 Infiniti G35X, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Curt Class 1 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11499. This is what our hitch looks like when it's installed. You can see the only thing noticeable is going to be your receiver tube. This is going to be a Class 1 1.25" by 1.25" receiver tube. Hitch pin hole is going to be 1/2 inch in diameter. Has nice loop style safety chain rings. Gives you plenty of room for different size safety chain hooks. It's going to have a reinforced collar, gives you extra stability on your receiver tube. As you can see, it's nice and tucked in back behind the bumper. You're not going to worry about hitting your shins or your legs on it. It's also going to come with its own pin and clip. Now this hitch is going to have a 200-pound max tongue weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. It's going to have a 2,000-pound max trailer weight, which is going to be the trailer plus the load included. Now I do recommend checking your owner's manual to make sure your vehicle can withstand that amount of weight, and you're going to want to pick the weight that's the lowest between the hitch and the vehicle. Now, Curt does require the use of stabilization straps for any non-trailered loads. Now this hitch is going to come with all hardware to get it installed. Now we will give you a couple of measurements to help you when deciding on any hitch mount accessories you may need, such as a bike rack or cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost part of the bumper will be about 2 inches. From the ground to the top innermost part of the receiver tube will be about 10.5 inches. That's a good idea to get a raised shank for better ground clearance. Now let's show you how to get this installed. To begin our installation, we're going to need to remove this black panel on the bottom of our vehicle. We're going to have 2 push pins. We're going to have a few bolts that we're going to have to remove. To remove the push pin, we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver. We're just going to slowly pop the pin out. And we're going to also be using a trim panel tool. Next, we're going to take a 10mm socket. We're going to have 2 nuts and 3 bolts that we're going to have to remove. And we're just going to set this aside to be reinstalled. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some black electrical tape and we're going to put it right down here at the bottom of our license plate before we remove the license plate. Now what this is doing is we are going to have to drill holes to remove a plate to put our hitch up, and we want to make sure that the holes stay underneath the license plate. And when we put our plate back on, it'll cover them. This just gives a marker so we know where the bottom of our license plate is. Once you get your line, you can go ahead and remove your license plate. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure from the center of this hole to the center of this hole. You can see we're about 3 inches. So now we're going to take a paint marker and we're going to transfer that measurement up here. So we're going to go from the center of this hole and we'll get on 3 inches to get our next hole. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a hole saw and we're going to drill out 2 holes right here to access the bottom holes. Now you can use 1 inch. I wouldn't go over 1 1/8. You want to make sure we're staying above our line. This is what we were trying to access. We're going to do the same thing on our driver's side. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a 12mm socket and we're going to remove these 4 bolts. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that plate that we just took the bolts out of. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pry it off. It's going to have a couple of aluminum weld spots. So we're just going to take a pry bar. We're going to set this aside to be reinstalled. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the center of our vehicle down here on the bottom of our bumper fascia. And I'm just going to put a little dot right there. Now we're going to measure per the instructions and we're going to cut this out for our hitch. Next, I'm just going to take a rotary tool with a cutting blade. You can use a knife if you want to, a razor blade knife. I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol. Let's wipe off the excess paint marker. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and put our hitch into place. Now there's going to be a bracket right down here on the bottom. we're going to have to go up on top of that. So if you get in the side, you slide your hitch over the top, and you want to be on top of this tow hook here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take our carriage bolt, and we're going to put it through this hole from the top side, and it's going to drop down through our tow hook. And we're going to take our large spacer block, put it on the bottom, and we'll take our flange nut and put it on following our spacer block. Now with our hitch loosely installed, we can put our fascia spacer back in place. Now we're going to be using the same hardware that we removed to put everything back together. Once you get your bracket here lined up with the top of your bumper beam, go ahead and tighten everything up. Now we'll be using a 19mm socket. We'll go ahead and tighten this down. Next, we'll torque everything down to specifications in the instructions. So now what we're going to do is our black underbody fascia here. We're going to loosely set it into place, and we got to mark so it'll fit around the plate of our hitch. So what we got to do, we're going to measure out the width. Next, we'll pull it back down, and we're going to measure per our instructions back this way. Again, we'll just take a rotary tool with a cutting blade, or we can use a razor knife. Next, we'll take some rubbing alcohol. We'll just wipe off the excess paint. Now we can reinstall our underbody fascia. Go ahead and put in this back bolt here and hold it in place. And then we'll reinstall all of our existing hardware. And that'll do it for the Curt Class 1 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11499 on our 2007 Infiniti G35X.
Thanks for watching, and click the link in our description below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com. And leave us a comment if you have any questions.